5, 4, 3. Hi, everybody. Dugroz here with Dugroz Reports. Welcome to my Saturday morning live stream. Today is Saturday, April the 4th, 2026, and I'm reporting live from my house. Good to see each and every one of you on board. Let's see who is on board. No way, Hefe. First, good to see you, No Way. Ian is here, ready for all the news. Glad to hear it, as is Nuracan, DEM. Good evening from Singapore. Ooh, fancy. Some travels going on. FLXNY, I said I was late. DEM assumes I'm using the bathroom. Nuracan responding, let's see here. TH Midwest wants to get the party started. And Juan Garcia, Juan in the MIA, is checking in this morning. Moving right along. John, I said I'm late. He said for a very important date. I was actually going to type that out, but I thought I better not take time. So thanks for reading my mind. The El Puma has arrived. Yuri G. Luke from Luke's Points and Miles. Calderds. And Vincent Pascal gets the ball rolling with contributions. A $1.99 super chat. Celebrate. Thank you so much, Vincent. I'll talk in a little bit about ways you can support my channel, including, but not limited to, super chats. And I see 33 people on board, so if you'd be kind enough to hit the thumbs up button, that'll drive more people in here to watch the live stream. It's sort of a circular process how that works. But we'll start the day off the same way we start almost every Saturday off, and that's with Dugroz data points, anything in the world of points, miles, cash back, etc., that I think is interesting. We'll kind of just go around the horn in the world of these types of things and just talk about some stuff. First data point is hat tip frequent miler. The Amazon Prime business card is moving from American Express to US Bank. That'll be happening on August 14th. Kind of a bold move there, US Bank. I'm not sure why American Express wants to get away from it. Maybe they couldn't negotiate the rates they wanted with Amazon. This does strike me as, I don't know, maybe a bit of an act of desperation on the point of US Bank. Kind of a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off, but whatever. Maybe there'll be an opportunity there. At least US Bank will approve me for anything, so I have a good chance of getting it. Stinky Monkey Babies arrived and says, Saturday morning show with Dugroz. Awesome. Travel, earn, repeat. Good morning, Dugroz in chat. A-tier has arrived. Hello. Friendly Carry Bear. Hello. First time chatting, but I've enjoyed watching the content and stream. Well, thank you, Friendly Carry Bear. I appreciate that. And then Catch 631 says, dropping my like. I won't be able to watch the full live stream. Hey, no problem. Just catch the replay and almost just as good. Next data point, Etihad is going to be dropped from Amex on June 30th. This is not a huge surprise, nor is it a huge loss, but I guess it's official now. Anytime your optionality goes down, that can be a bit of a bummer, though. So just be aware of and prepare for that, whatever's going on with Etihad, of them being, maybe not wanting to let points and miles dominate their people traveling as much. That's pure speculation on my part. Click thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. I see 42 people in here. Awesome. This is a personal data point. You've heard of Rove Miles. I've talked about them a few times. And when I did a Saturday topic on Rove Miles a couple weeks ago, somebody used my refer a friend link, because see, looky there, I got the 500 mile referral bonus, and they must have spent on something, because 10% came to 3,800 and 7,900 respectively. So thank you, whoever did that. I've now got like 13,000 Rove miles or something like that. So I really appreciate it. If you want to hop on Rove, it's a platform with transferable currencies for booking things like hotels, flights. You can also use it with shopping, like a cookie-based portal. I do have my link down below, and that'll support me too if you want to do that. So I really, really appreciate whoever did that. The topic du jour, or the theme of the day today, is the top 10 things I've learned and changed my mind about in points and miles, specifically the travel aspect of points and miles. So if you stay around to the second half, I'll be talking about that theme. Just as time has gone by, there's various things that I've thought like, oh, when I first got into points and miles, this is how I'm going to do it, or this is what I'm going to do. And I've either learned, nope, that's not important, or something else is more important, or just outright rejecting it. DEM says, I used yours, Dugroz, and did a 2,500 mattress run for JAL. Oh, very cool. Thank you, DEM. Celebrate. I really appreciate that. No way, Hefe says, a nice stack for gas is the IHG Premier Chevron Gas Offer Chevron app. I've been getting 8 to 13% savings plus 5 IHG points the last few months. Hey, that's really cool. Appreciate that. DEM says 1.4 cents per point for JAL miles isn't bad. Let's see. How do you do a mattress run for JAL? Is there some hotel partner they have? Or you mean you're just taking some really short flights and having it credited over there? Next Dugroz data point here. You get a 20% bonus. Oh, better show the screen. A 20% bonus right now when transferring from Chase over to Air Canada Aeroplan. And this stacks with the 10% cardholder bonus. It's back. Celebrate. But this one's not particularly helpful for me because last time I pretty much maxed it out. I don't even know if I have 50,000 Air Canada. Excuse me. I don't know if I even have 50,000 Chase points to do the transfer in 50,000 point increments to get the extra 10%. That's what you have to transfer to trigger that extra 10% on the card. But maybe it'll benefit you. This is what leads to the 1.625 that I often talk about. So like if you transfer with a 20 plus 10, which is a 1.3 ratio from Chase over to Aeroplan, and then you use your Aeroplan credit card to boom, pay yourself back, which is limited to 200,000 points per year. Functionally, that equals 1.625 cents per point on random things like boat tours, cruises, ferries, subways, the Hoover Dam parking lot, those kind of things. Flory Jack is here and says, good morning, listening at the gym. Awesome. Keep that heart in good shape. DEM says, we'll save that for the Discord. Okay, I gotcha. New Again says, Dugroz reports, change my mind. Nice. Not quite, but we're on those same themes. Yuri uses IHG to fuel up at Sam's. Okay, that's cool. I see 56 people on board, and that's really awesome. One thing that might be influencing the number of people on board is our next data point, and it's called the AvCon. I just now found out about this yesterday evening when Rewards Master was doing a live stream and said he's at this event. I know Mike Newland's at this event, and it was said that Calby and Anthony Venture are also at this event. So we may not have quite as many viewers as usual, but if any of you are at this right now, just wave and say hi. Apparently, this is an aviation-themed convention, and it's in Atlanta, and it's today. So any of you that are there, have fun. Hope you enjoy each other's company. And I don't know much about it, so I don't know if it's like points and miles aviation. I kind of doubt it, or more just like aviation nerds in general. Whatever. If anybody has a significant data point on that, let me know. By the way, I just wanted to give a hat tip to friend of the channel and channel member Ron B, who sent me the heads up that Aeroplan is now offering that 20% bonus when you go from Chase over to Aeroplan. So I am not super active over on the Stack Your Points Discord and the Anthony Venture Discord, but I'm on there and you can direct message me. So if you want to do that and send me a heads up or a data point, I'm always happy to take it into consideration. A couple people mentioned IHG, and something that's worth mentioning that'll help understand kind of where my brain is going here. This is with IHG. I did have the IHG business credit card. I canceled it over a year ago, probably like around a year ago, or maybe right at a year ago. I'd say April of last year. But I used some strategery and waited until the free night certificate posted in my account. So that's posted, but you'll see down here, it expires on May 16th. Now, the only travel that I'm doing between now and May 16th is my spring RIP trip, which is this coming month, or it's in the month we're in right now. So it's in 3 weeks from today, basically. I'll be taking country roads to get me home to that one particular place I belong, Western Virginia. Some people say the song actually describes the western part of Virginia more than West Virginia, but that depends on who you ask, kind of thing. But anyway, I do need to use my free night certificate. So that's going to kind of explain a little bit of what I'm doing next. Not perfectly, but it ties in. And that topic is rental cars. So I am going to be renting a car, and I'm flying into Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, because there aren't really any significant airports around Wheeling, West Virginia. There is one in the capital of West Virginia, which is Clarksburg. It's a C name. The capital of West Virginia. If anybody can confirm, that'd be great, because I feel stupid right now. I learned this in 4th grade, I swear. And my wife taught 4th grade for many years. The capital of West Virginia has an airport, but usually it's very small. I mean, it's smaller than the Des Moines airport by a significant margin, and prices are pretty expensive. So most people going to the northern half of West Virginia will fly into Pittsburgh and then drop down. And that's what I'm doing. I'm flying into Pittsburgh. So I kind of put off getting my rental car until very recently. Excuse me, gonna blow my nose here. Got some post-nasal drip from last night building up. And while seeking out rental cars, I thought to myself, aha, you know what? I got that decent retention offer, 10,000 points on my US Bank Altitude Reserve, and they've changed it now where instead of getting $325 as general travel credits, it's a coupon for their portal. It's not really a coupon, it's actually a statement credit, but it has to be through US Bank Travel. So I'm like, why don't I rent my car there? Or at least take a look and see what it's like. So Avis so far has the best offer. And you'll see over here down the bottom right, for the whole rental period, which is a pickup on a Friday late, return on a Tuesday afternoon. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, portions of 5 days, really more like 4 days if you're counting 24 hours, but it laps into 5 different days. $381.02. I'm like, that's pretty costly. Usually I try to keep it down in like the low 200s, but it is what it is. Not finding a lot of other great deals, but I will keep looking. So my first thought is, let's compare that to direct with Avis, because I've not used the US Bank Travel Portal much in the past. So let's see what's a better deal. So remember that number, 381. And yes, points are only worth a penny each nowadays. Poo-poo, don't love that. Okay, so there is the screenshot of what it would be with Avis directly. And I look right here, pay later, $323.96. And I'm like, what? So it was $381 with US Bank. And I'm like, US Bank is overcharging by $58. Those jerks, that's a pretty significant amount of money. But then I went to the next screen with Avis directly and found out, nope, turns out Avis is the jerk, not US Bank, because Avis was displaying the before taxes and fees price. Once you factor in taxes and fees, it's actually $449. So US Bank is actually like $70 less than directly with Avis. I swear it's the exact same car on the exact same dates. And hey, look at this giant pile of crap right here. Frequent travel program for points and miles, $3. So I have my Avis account linked to some sort of rewards program. I don't remember. I did it a long time ago. I haven't used Avis in like 2 or 3 years. Might be Hilton, might be Hyatt, might be Southwest, whatever. They let you pick from like 100 different points and miles partners if you don't want it to go directly to Avis, which I don't, because their points expire faster than I can use them. But apparently now they charge you to earn points. What the crap? I mean, that's a ripoff and a half. So US Bank, you're doing okay. Avis, treating us like crap. So back to US Bank now. So they also have a slider where you can use some points, but not all points. And my thought process is, right now they're only worth a penny each. Do I want to save them? I'm going to slide this around and hit a certain number. So $325 credit, $381. The difference between those two figures is 56-ish bucks, something like that. For some reason, I have a $30 statement credit on my altitude reserve. I think it was just an auto pay thing, hit the same day that I made payment or something along those lines. So I did the sliding around and decided to land here where I'm redeeming 2,600 points. My total due will be $355.02. When I subtract out the $325, that leaves $30.02. I've got a $30 statement credit, so my total balance will be 2 cents. And then to sweeten it even slightly better, Doctor of Credit tells me that U.S. Bank has a small balance waiver where if your balance at the end of your statement cycle's less than $1, they'll just wipe it out. So I'm going to save that extra 2 cents for free. So functionally, my U.S. Bank altitude reserve statement will be exactly $0.00 if I make no other purchases on it. So I landed that plane pretty swiftly. So I'll let you know how it goes. I'm not done looking for rental cars. I'm still going to look around in the next 3 weeks and see if I can find a better deal. There's a good chance that I can, but I haven't compared this to like the Capital One portal or the Chase portal. So I'm not sure how other portals are going to do, but honestly, it's about the same as like the best deal I could find on Auto Slash. So we'll keep going. We'll find out. I also have a backup rental car at Enterprise. I almost always book backup. It was a little over $400. So just some data worth sharing how I do rental cars, at least part of it. And then this was interesting. At the very end, there was a survey question and it asks, how can we improve the travel center? And I said, bring back the $325 altitude reserve general travel credit, not just in the portal. It's so restrictive. So yes, even though I found it in the US Bank travel portal, I'd rather have it on any travel because then I could use the travel portal or some other place. And I was thinking to myself, wow, $381 for a full-size rental car. Like I said, usually that's down around like $195, $230, somewhere in that range. I'm like, what's going on? So I went out and searched for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Maybe they have a home game that weekend or something. No, that wasn't it. So I just did a Google search of what's going on in Pittsburgh, April 24th, 25th. There is something going on. Apparently, the NFL draft is in Pittsburgh that weekend. So this year, all the football NFL diehards are gathering in somewhere. Underdog Arena, Gridiron, whatever. That's probably just an advertisement. But yeah, the NFL draft is in Pittsburgh. So I'm not staying in Pittsburgh. I'm just flying in and then driving down to Wheeling, West Virginia that same night. But that explains why rental cars are so stinking expensive that weekend. All right, now let me catch up with some various and sundry comments. Ian says, I have tickets for AvCon, forgot to go. Check. Fargonaut's here. How you doing, Fargonaut? Hey, everyone, checking in from a seat on Artemis. Glad I finally made us. Man, oh, yeah, well, wave at us from your orbit on the way back from the moon. Yuri says, we have 4 IHG cards, 2 select and 2 travelers. Awesome. I think one of those is the old card that gives you like $50 for free or something like that. Or no, 10% off point bookings. And I think it has a $50 annual fee. This is Christus here. It says April showers. We should all take showers during the month of April. Luke confirmed that Charleston is the capital of West Virginia. Charleston, made in Carolina. That's confusing because there's also Charleston, South Carolina, which I don't think is a capital. Columbia is the capital of South Carolina, right? No way, Hefe says IHG is opening an Intercontinental and Kimpton in the Turks in 2027. I assume you mean Turks and Caicos rather than something Turkish over in Turkey. They also opened a Hotel Indigo there. I'm saving up my points for that. Awesome. Hope you like it. Ziza said, do you ever reshop your rental as the day of pickup gets closer? I've experienced that sometimes gets cheaper. Oh, yes. Yes. In fact, probably between now and the start of the week I'm traveling, I will check it about twice a week. And then the last week, I'll check it at least every day, sometimes more than once a day. Yuri says, I used economy bookings and paid with Aeroplan for car rental recently. Awesome. Boom. Pay yourself back. If it's outside your country of residence, you get the full-blown primary travel cover rental insurance thing. That came out terribly, but y'all know what I mean. Country Roads, but using Sabbath War Pigs lyrics is amazing. Tops both songs. Changed my mind. I don't know anything about Sabbath War Pigs. Sorry. I've thought about doing a parody called County Roads before. Somebody else probably has. Ronald is here. Takes showers during the month of April. Works out great. Double Animal Fries is here. How you doing, Double? And fees. Stupid Avis. Too many fees. Bryjack says, is this a case you got to spend money to make money? I'm not sure what you're referencing, but if you're talking about the U.S. Bank rental car thing, they give you $325 for free every year. Free. Now, you've already paid for the card itself, but once you've paid for it, you get it at no additional charge. So it's kind of like baked in. Chad says direct car rental prices are usually higher. You can't shop competition on their site. When you buy in a portal, they have to sharpen the pencil and compete. That's a good point. By the way, howdy y'all. How you doing? John gifts 1 Dugroz Reports membership. Very consistent. Thank you, John. Celebrate. That's just as good as a $3 super chat. I really appreciate that. No Way Hefe says, I tend to read the user reviews of rental car companies at the pickup location. I've never had a bad experience after I started doing this. That's a great idea. So, have you ever been to an airport where they all are terrible? I've had that. And honestly, I've had that at this exact airport in Pittsburgh. So definitely having a backup rental car is not a bad option. In fact, it was Avis at Pittsburgh that inspired me to start booking backup rental cars because I had a bad experience with that and missed a college football game because of it. So you made a good point, and I'm going to write this on a Post-it note. Avis? ? Like, should I really be doing Avis? Thank you, No Way. Ronald says, that makes perfect sense. Sleepy Rod says, have you tried using an employer discount? I did once a long time ago. I work for a fairly large company, and they have like this employer discount, but unfortunately, it's really dumb. The way it works is some stupid third-party company convinced someone at my employer to use their third-party website exclusively for deals. So if I want a discount, I have to go to like, I'm making this up, but like awesometravelvalue.fart/name of employer and book through that website. And supposedly it just kind of acts like their own portal and goes to, they only have like 2 rental car companies. I think it's Avis and Enterprise, or Avis and Hertz. You have to use one of those. And historically, the discounts are only good compared to booking direct. It's like 5% less. So unfortunately, didn't work well for me. Now, if you mean using an employer discount that's not my own employer, I did get burned on that once slightly. It didn't like prevent me from getting the rental, but it caused a whole lot of hassle. So I really don't want to do that again. Newgin says, I've run several U.S. Bank dummy hotel bookings, solid, and they have refundable rates, unlike the program that shall not be named. Ooh, now I wonder what the program that shall not be named is. And also says, New Again also says, U.S. Bank just needs to add combining all altitude points and transfer partners. Wells Fargo with 1-to-1 a core would be sweet. I agree with you there. They do need to get their act together. I've got just a little something on that later in the show, not much. 55 people on board. Keep clicking the thumbs up button. Yuri says, I don't have collision coverage on my own rental insurance, so I guess any card will be primary in the U.S. Oh, okay. Well, that's a little different then. Bill Wright drops a $2 super chat. Celebrate. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate your patronage. New Again says, rental car promo and discount codes is an obtuse dark art. Well, actually, if you want to go all the way back to like 2020 or 2019 even, one of my very first ever YouTube videos on this channel is about like these awesome discount codes you can find on Avis. And I think like 2 years after I made that, I went back, put a pinned comment disclaimer like, hey, I found out later on that some of these are a little bit in the dark art chicanery category. So do this at your own risk. When I did it at the time, it was completely born of ignorance. Now seems like a good a time as any to talk about different ways that you can support me here on this channel. So just like Bill Wright did, you can drop a super chat. Just look down below. That's a great option. You can drop a super sticker, also a great option. And my standard offer, if you donate exactly $149 as displayed on the screen, it usually has to be a super sticker, I will give you 1,000 Dugroz points. You could donate a channel membership like John did. I think probably since Mike is out at the AvCon, someone else is going to have to step up and be the benefactor today is my guess. There's also a tip jar link. So if you look in the description box, you'll see the very first URL takes you to something called Tip Top Tip Jar. And yeah, basically it's a way you can give me money and not have to give away nearly as much. I think YouTube confiscates about 30%. Tip jar only confiscates about 3%. Hey, and I just got a tip jar tip very recently from Juan in the MIA. $3 in the tip jar. Thank you so much, Juan. Celebrate. I really appreciate that. You can also become a Dugroz diehard. That's my one and only one channel membership level. Let me show you just a little bit of what that looks like. It looks kind of like this. Oh, I keep hitting the wrong button. It looks a little bit like this right there. It'll say join this channel. Just find that blue join button on any video, maybe this one, maybe a different one. Click it and you can see all of my members only videos. Right now I have over 65 members only videos. Here's some examples that might interest you. We have off-peak things, a productivity rant, credit card emotions. Back when the U.S. Bank was about to die, I talked about the U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve being on death's door. Retirement versus points. Am I too poor for points and miles? How about interacting with normies or me singing a song? There's lots of good reasons why you might want to become a channel member, and getting access to all these videos is one of them. And we'll have a little celebration if you do that while the live stream's going. There's that tip jar link right there. That's what it'll look like. Another way you can support me is by getting a good night of sleep. And you might think, that's kind of weird, Doug. How does getting a good night of sleep help? Well, I am an affiliate for Nest Bedding, and this is my favorite mattress. It's called the Sparrow Signature Hybrid. My wife and I have been sleeping on it for more than 6 years. Here's a video I made before I had gray in my beard. This mattress has a lifetime limited warranty, a 365-night risk-free sleep trial. Yes, you can send it back for a refund for a whole year if you don't like it. And the most innovative thing is a lifetime renewal exchange. So that top layer, which is like a, not a memory foam that you sink into, but like a reactive gel foam. If that gets worn out, once in the lifetime of your mattress, you can swap it out for free. And more than once, you can just pay for it. So it's sort of like updating your mattress without having to buy a whole new one. And I think it's pretty nifty. So check the description box for a more recent video I made. Even if you're not considering the mattress, just watch the video. Helps me get put in front of the affiliate more. And then there will be a link to buy it. That will help me out. You got to use mine. You can't use Rakuten or it won't support me. Thank you for the consideration. I will now catch up with comments. Oh, we already read that one. We read that one. We read that one. And oh, we actually are already caught up on comments. Thank you, everyone. Or no, this is new. Yuri says, I found one site which lists U.S. Bank transfer partners, but I think it's fake. Interesting. A lot of interesting rumorage going on. Next data point here. This is Hat Tip Frequent Miler. You can get a 30% bonus when transferring from Capital One to Japan Airlines, JAL, which is almost but not quite one-to-one. Interesting, they only launched Japan Airlines as a transfer partner earlier this year, just maybe, 2 months ago? And then they had a transfer bonus that was this same one. It ended, about a month went by, and they're like, yeah, let's do it again. So if you want to transfer over to JAL, you can do that right now from Capital One and get a 30% bonus, which leads you to almost one-to-one. And while that might sound limited, Japan Airlines does have a few really awesome sweet spots. I've not personally tried it, but the one I heard about that attracts me the most is, even though they're in different alliances, they have a Flying Blue partnership. So you can fly from North America over to Europe, usually either Paris or Amsterdam, maybe have a layover, continue on somewhere else, for only slightly more than what Flying Blue charged itself. So instead of $60,000, you might get like $66,000. But the surcharges, tax, and fees are not passed through at nearly the same rate. So it can be really awesome. No Way Hefe says, why mattress run when you can mattress keep with the Sparrow? Hey, that's almost like a slogan. Let me copy that. Thanks for letting me borrow it. I appreciate it. Very creative. This data point comes hat tip to upgraded points. Solar eclipse cruises you can still book for 2026. Now, I'm not planning on doing this, but I wasn't even aware that there was a solar eclipse this year. It's not in North America, unfortunately. It's in just a little piece of Europe. But man, solar eclipses are cool. I saw one the last time we had one. Was that 23 or 24? I don't remember. Maybe 22, something like that. I went to Ziegler, Illinois, which is in the southern part of Illinois, not too far from St. Louis. Got to see the one and only solar eclipse that I've personally viewed. Let me say that again. The one and only solar eclipse with a path of totality. I had a couple when I was a kid, one specific that was a partial. This is where it's running right now. So August 12th, 2026. So you can go to Greenland. You can get nipped if you're in the right part of Iceland. Probably John R. will be there. Or you can wait till it continues down here through Spain, maybe just a teeny bit of Portugal. And apparently it just kind of fades away when it hits the Mediterranean, or they didn't continue it or something like that. So anybody planning on traveling for the solar eclipse? I don't think I am, but I wouldn't put it past others, and it's probably not even a bad idea. Jason Y146 wants to know if Chad Pennycuff is in fact the Disney guy. Yes, he is, absolutely. And greetings, Dugroz. Miles to the Mouse is the name you're looking for. Let's move on to the next data point here. I had mentioned previously that the Capital One Venture card, not the Venture X, just the Venture, right now has a 75,000 point welcome offer and includes a $250 Capital One travel credit. So it's like a portal coupon. The 75,000 is pretty standard, but that coupon part is ending on the 13th. So you have 9 more days. That is a week from Monday. And I don't know if it's first thing in the morning or the night before. So you better plan on signing up by Sunday the 12th to be on the safe side if that's something you're interested in. I actually have started recommending the Capital One Venture card as someone's first ever travel card if they're willing to pay an annual fee, because A, it's so easy and you get some early wins, and B, if you're going to get into Capital One, that's the time to do it. You can always product change it to something else later, downgrade it to a Saver One, won't hurt anything. But when you have offers like this, it's a good time to get in. If you want to, I've got a link to that down in my own description box. Go ahead and click on that. It would mean a lot to me. I only get the referral bonus if you've never had a Capital One product, or at least haven't in the recent past. So whether or not that works, who knows? Boy, comments have really dried up. So go ahead and make a comment. Let me see. What's something completely random we could talk about? How about your favorite natural phenomenon? If it's not a solar eclipse, what do you like? Volcanoes, earthquakes, solar eclipses, the first snowstorm of the year? Just let me know. Chad from Chad's Money Minutes is here. Yo, 35,000 feet above the eastern seaboard. Awesome. Have a safe flight. Yuri saw a solar eclipse in Israel back in 99. No Way Hefe says Discover Venture rewards. Maybe they will be in the not too distant future called that. Eduardo Vargas' favorite natural phenomenon is nukes. Well, either you're a lot older than I would expect or you're anticipating something. Flory Jack says the Northern Lights, Aurora Borealis, in this part of the country, at this time of the year, at this time of day, localized entirely within your kitchen. Yes. Can I see it? No. Yeah, that's a good one. Northern Lights makes tons of sense. I've never seen the Northern Lights other than in pictures. There was one day it was supposedly visible from Iowa, but I found out what that meant is if you go outside with your iPhone and have that perfect setting and hold it still for a few minutes, you'll get a cool picture. But if you're just looking with your naked eye, it's like, is the sky slightly pinker than usual? I've never seen the good stuff before. I'd like to someday. It's on my bucket list. All right, next data point here is from also frequent miler. Uber is buying the company Blacklane, and expected acquisition will be by the end of this year. So this is probably wouldn't be a big deal at all, except a lot of us have the City Strata Elite card that gives you some Blacklane credits. This is like fancy Uber. So it's like limos or a black SUV or something like that. And usually it's slightly overpriced, but people have said things like, well, since I get the credit through my Strata Elite anyway, it ends up being about the same. Am I remembering correctly? It's $100 twice a year, first half, second half. Does that sound right? Can I get a confirmation over here? So we'll just be watching this with great interest. We'll be watching Yellow Korea with great interest to see what happens because, little bit of fear that American Express will be like, hey, only we can do Uber. And now it's owned by Uber. You're not allowed to do that anymore. Now, that could actually end up benefiting us if City is forced into a position where they have to offer a general rideshare credit rather than Black Lane specifically. But probably it'll be a while before that all shakes out. Let's see. No Way Hefe says it was Chuck Norris. The nukes. Bill Wright said, I'd travel to see Northern Lights. It's on my want list. Source King says, people watching at the Wisconsin State Fair is my favorite natural phenomenon. I hear you. I've been to the Iowa State Fair, but it's been a while. David Williams says, I was in Amsterdam during the 99 eclipse. Very cool. And the El Puma says, in Kerrville, Texas, like 2 years ago when we were having a solar eclipse, we had 30,000 people coming into a small town. Even NASA came down, and it was super cloudy the whole day. Oh, bummer. That's probably the one I went to in Southern Illinois. I'm guessing it was the same one because I think it came up from Mexico, if I remember correctly. Yuri says, I went out to watch from work when I was working in Checkpoint at Diamond Stock Exchange building in Ramat Gan. Very cool. My dad tells a story of when he worked at a meat processing plant when he was a young man, probably in his 20s, in Ottumwa, where I'm from, called Morels, that he got some welding goggles, and like somehow they had like a couple loose lenses, so he just held it up in front of his face, was able to watch a solar eclipse from like the third story of the building where he worked. David says, we came out of the coffee shop and it was dark, had no idea there was going to be an eclipse. Awesome. Accidental eclipses are tight. All right. Keep on clicking thumbs up. Our viewership has dropped slightly. It went from the 60s down into the high 50s. Anybody going to step up and be the Mike Newland this week? More data points here. We'll keep moving on. United Mileage Plus makes a huge change or huge changes to earning and redeeming miles. Again, hat tip to frequent miler. I like this first line they said. There's an oft-repeated joke in travel circles that goes something like this. Want to know what United's planning for next year? Look at what Delta did last year. So earlier this week, United made significant changes to how members earn and redeem miles. As somebody who's not into the United loyalty program, I probably won't do this full justice. But as I see it, as I read it briefly, the highlights seem to be how your earning points on actual flights and spending will work. For example, in the past, if you were a member but didn't have any elite status at all, you earned 5 miles per dollar. Now, if you don't have a credit card, you'll earn 3 miles per dollar. And if you do, you'll earn 6 miles per dollar. So basically, they're incentivizing you to have one of their credit cards to earn on flight spending and United spending. In fact, it's interesting that a non-elite person with a credit card earns more miles, 6, than a silver elite earns if they don't have a credit card, and the same amount that a non-card holding gold member earns, 6 and 6. That's whacked. Like, they are prioritizing holding the credit card over like people that don't have the credit card but fly a fair amount. That's nuts. It really kind of reinforces the mindset of like airlines have devolved into credit card companies that happen to fly planes. And then even worse, if you are doing basic economy, not main cabin, but like the super crapified version where you don't even get to pick your seat. If you're a general member and don't have a credit card, you're earning nothing moving forward. If you have a card, at least you earn 3. And again, you earn more than a silver member and the same amount as a gold member in basic economy. I very rarely fly basic economy. I like to have the not refundable, but like the ability to get a credit if something goes wrong and I have to change. Plus, most portals you can't book basic economy, at least not for every flight. So you're usually main cabin anyway. Este in Miami says, greetings. How you doing? Thanks for being a diehard. And Bill Wright says, do you have an American Gothic pick with you and your wife since the house is a major tourist attraction near your hometown? I do not. I think the last time I saw the American Gothic house was in the early 2000s when I was in my 20s, driving around in a job where I was doing like fundraising for the college I worked for. So it's been probably 23 years since I've seen it. In fact, they hadn't even built the visitor center. At that point, it was just somebody's house. I think the owner rented it out to people, but I do need to do that. Next Dugroz data point here. Not even a data point, just the Dugroz Eats installment. I ate at a local Mexican restaurant. I won't say the name because I don't want to give away the exact suburb I work in, but ooh, man, that looks good. Looky there. This is Mexicali Pollo Loco or something like that. Very good. Next Dugroz data point. This has to do with the Department of Homeland Security problems in the United States Congress, where the Democrats and Republicans can't get along and decide how to fund that, whether or not to fund it, etc. And I really don't want to get into politics, so this is just approaching the aspect of how it affects us. So please don't get political on me and say, those darn Republicans, those darn Democrats, my veins are popping. Try to avoid that if you can. This is just a headline from ABC that says Johnson and Thune, that's basically your two congressional leaders, announced plans to end the DHS shutdown, but could face a long road. Now, this was posted on April 1st, so hopefully it's not a joke, but I checked other sources, doesn't appear to be. And basically, ABC News, worst screenshot timing ever, as they're fading from one thing to another. TSA workers are getting paid again, so hopefully that helps. Does anybody have a non-political comment about traveling since Wednesday on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday? What did you experience in terms of long lines? I even saw some TSA workers just straight up resigned, which I understand cash flow is a real thing, but every government shutdown ever since like 1950, all of the workers have gotten paid retroactively with interest. So unless like you have zero in your savings account, just straight up quitting your job seems like an awful dark step. So fingers crossed that by the time I travel in 3 weeks, a little under 3 weeks, that won't be a thing anymore. 67 people on board, slight recovery. Keep clicking thumbs up. I still haven't seen a $1.49 super sticker, so somebody's got to be willing to do that. Next data point, U.S. Bank does something kind of dumb, but they've been doing it for a long time. We just now noticed it. I feel like you could switch the What Crazy Thing segment from Citi over to U.S. Bank. It turns out that the U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve's travel protections only cover transportation, not hotels. So at least in my mind, this is how it is with Chase. If you use their credit card to pay for travel, and then because your trip gets canceled, you had like a non-refundable hotel, it would cover that also. Not the case with U.S. Bank. So somebody found out in U.S. and hat tip Frequent Miler, somebody found out and Frequent Miler investigated it. It turns out they only travel transit and transportation. So when we look at the fine print here, it says right on there, when you purchase a travel ticket with your card and you must cancel or interrupt your trip, this benefit can reimburse you for non-refundable cost of your fare. This applies to more than air travel. It also applies, blah, 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 to travel via other forms of eligible transportation, such as ferry, train, bus, or cruise ship. Notice what's missing? Lodging. So if you booked a cruise and a flight and a ferry for some reason, because you have to cross the harbor to get to the cruise, and a one-night hotel stay that was non-refundable, it would cover the ferry, it would cover the cruise, it would cover the airfare, but it would not cover your one-night non-refundable hotel. Now look at this picture with me and see if you had the exact same thought that I did. So we're talking about a benefit that does not apply to lodging. And what's the picture of? Some guy opening at a door at a place that has like not stained glass, but like foggy glass, a desk chair, and a lady, a deck chair, and a lady with the suitcase. Does this not look like a boutique hotel or an Airbnb? So literally you're talking about a benefit that doesn't cover lodging while showing a picture of lodging. Jerk store. Shame on you, U.S. Bank. And I know the U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve's not even open to new applicants, but I'm assuming they're going to bring back some sort of elite card above the $99 level at some point in the future, whether it's this one or a different one. So that got my blood pressure up a little bit when I read that. which really hasn't been an issue so far because I haven't used the altitude reserve for lodging since like 2020. I used to mostly use it on rental cars. Now with the whole portal thing, I'm like, This was interesting. Down in the comment section, somebody said this. I'll try to zoom in. Mark, I heard that the points transfer feature is finally supposed to go live the week of April. It's cut off. I think it says 16th. We'll see if next week is indeed when it launches. I hope they have more than crappy airlines and hotel partners and not just something like that. And, oh, I'm sorry, the week of April 6th. That's next week. Where did you hear this? From someone at US Bank. Now, I put about as much credibility in that as I put in a dog turd or a first grader explaining something, but interesting that somebody said it's supposed to happen. Yuri said he found a website, but he's pretty sure it's fake. So we'll have to see. I'm not holding my breath. Now, I'll catch up on some comments here. Jesus Chris said, I forget if you have the Sapphire Reserve, but I believe car rentals are 8x through the Chase portal. I do have the Sapphire Reserve right now. I'll have it at least through summer. But I want to use up credits, not necessarily have awesome earnings. At least that's the position I'm in right now. Este is saying hi to Juan. Juan saying hi to Este. Jason drops that elusive $1.49 super sticker. Since it doesn't show on StreamYard, you can tell me what it is. Is it a hamburger? Is it a dog? Is it a donut? Celebrate. I need to get you your 1,000 Dugroz points. Let me open my travel wallet here. Boom. There you go. 1,000 Dugroz points. Spend them wisely. Travel Fan 11 says, hi, Dugroz. I hope you're doing well. Interested to listen to your topics today. Thank you. I think we've spoken before, but it's been a minute or two. Thank you, Travel Fan. I appreciate it. New Again says, come on, bro. US Bank, you're better than that. Yeah, if you ever watch the YouTube channel called Oversimplified, they have this saying, dude, uncool. It's very uncool. Next Dugroz data point. We're getting close to the end. Chase Sapphire Reserve has some new pay yourself back categories. Pet stores, annual fee, and groceries. Annual fee can be helpful if you're kind of the person that wants to use points to pay your annual fee. It effectively reduces it down a little bit. Pet stores, sure. Groceries are the one that would interest me the most. Now, before somebody's like, but Doug, don't use your valuable Chase points for 1.25. You can do way better. Well, that's true, and you can transfer to Hyatt, those kind of things. Almost always get more. Shoot, you can transfer to Aeroplan right now and get at least 1.625 if you have the card and play it right. But actually, now that there is no travel portal, 1.25 isn't terrible. If you just need straight up cash, just go to the grocery store, buy the kind of things you would buy anyway. Get yourself a Taco John's gift card, an Airbnb gift card, whatever that you're going to use. Money is fungible. So, take $130 out of your grocery budget, move it over your travel savings account. Back when you could do 1.5 for a lot of things, this wasn't appealing. Now it's sort of like, it's really not a terrible option. The game is kind of changing. Jason says, peach. Oh, the super sticker was a picture of a peach. Thank you. I know the 149s are fairly limited. It's mostly food. New Again says that not covering hotels policy is something you would see from the program that shall not be named. Okay. Next Dugroz data point here. American Express. Oh, I should call this in the segment called Things That Surprise No One. American Express is going to remove the $100 Saks benefit on the Platinum card. So we know that Saks is going bankrupt. They're basically going out of business. So I guess no one's really surprised that it's being removed from the American Express Platinum card. I think that goes into effect June 1st or something like that. I just realized we dropped down to 30 people on board. Why did my viewership cut in half? Is there a problem? Like if the audio's cutting out, just let me know. Can you hear me? Is this thing on? Or am I just that boring? I apologize if I'm just that boring. But I'll keep pressing ahead because I know a lot of people watch this after the fact. If there is a technological issue, let me know. If the audio sounds totally fine, let me know that as well. And then that was the penultimate Dugroz data point. Now we have the final Dugroz data point here, although it's not really a Dugroz data point. It's more just a thing that interests me. I'd mentioned this last week, still want to mention it. There's this really cool Airbnb / boutique lodging property in far western Maryland, very close to the Pennsylvania border, but not in Pennsylvania. That is the only Frank Lloyd Wright inspired vacation rental of its kind in America. Not an original Frank Lloyd Wright, but in that same style, the style of Falling Waters, which is actually just across the border, about 40 minutes north in Pennsylvania. I would love to stay there when I travel in 3 weeks, but I can't figure out a way to do it with any kind of decent value. And I'm not going to just take $831 out of my travel savings account. I don't have enough Marriott points, and the points plus cash option was terrible. It's like 0.49 cents per point. So if anybody has any Hail Mary last second strategies on how to do that using my philosophy of net zero, I'll take away your Dugroz points. If you say just pay cash, let me know. I would appreciate it. Nurican says the audio is thumbs up, so it must not be that. I guess I'm just boring today. Or honestly, maybe since Mike Newland's here and usually drops like $60 in super chats, maybe the algorithm's thinking like he must be super boring today. So any thumbs up, any comment is appreciated. If you want to name your favorite fruit, you can do that. Travel fan wants to know, are the 1.25 points on Aeroplan's Air Canada card for use only on the points earned by the card or transferred in by the Chase points? Are they point changed from all other eligible cards to be used for the 1.25 pay yourself back? That's a great question. So the terms and conditions say you're only supposed to use them on points that are transferred from Chase or earned with Aeroplan itself. Pardon me. There's no enforcement mechanism, though. So the question is, how big of a dog do you have to be? I mean, if I transferred over 30,000 points from American Express that I intended to use but then didn't use, and then I use it for pay myself back, plus it just goes into one big pool. So how do you prove, like, these points I used for Aeroplan to book Lufthansa, these points I used for pay myself back? There's really no distinguishing. Now, they probably have those terms in there because if you transfer in 1 million Amex points and use that, they have a way to spank you and smack you down. But now that you're limited to paying yourself back on only 200,000 points per year, which equates to $2,500 per credit card, I don't think it's that big of a deal. So, you know, if you transfer over 10,000 or 30,000 or even 50,000 from American Express or Capital One and pay yourself back, I don't think there'd be any harm or consequences. If it's hundreds of thousands of points, I would probably avoid doing that. But good question. We just jumped back up to 52 people, so maybe it was a display issue. Ian says, last second strategy, big for super chats. Please, sir, may I have another? Celebrate, celebrate. Thank you, Ian. You are a true supporter, and I thank you for your service. All right, so we're now going to take the intermission, also known as the biology break, also known as the bathroom break. And that just means I'm going to step away for a few moments. You're going to hear some copyright-free music. It's one that you've heard before, and I'll be back in about 2 or 3 minutes. Feel free to discuss your favorite type of fruit or your favorite natural phenomenon while I'm gone. I will be coming back, and then we can have the theme of the day. By the way, I mentioned this on Wednesday when I did my first ever Dugroz live in concert, but I do now have a Bandcamp page, dugroz.bandcamp.com. So any songs that you hear, you can actually download. It's $1.62 per song or $9.99 for a whole album. So gonna take that break now. Hope that you enjoy it. Here we go.
Saturday shirt, same one as last week. Dugroz in the driveway, checking tires squeaks. Print out map, folded 3 wrong ways. He's chasing down a waterfall behind the municipal maze. Little stone park with the chain link gate. He reads every plaque, then he's back on 68. Oh yeah. Casey's Pizza in the parking lot. Grease on the napkin, soda on his watch. He's a 40-something every day, but he's getting what he never had. Bennigan's lunch at the edge of the mall, ordering dessert like he's 10 feet tall. Every mile, every roadside stop, busts in fluorescent light. He whispers each inscription like a bedtime rite. State House dome in a postcard sky. He snaps it from the shoulder, kids rolling their eyes. Hey! Casey's Pizza in the parking lot. Grease on the napkin, soda on his watch. He's a 40-something every day, but he's getting what he never had. Bennigan's lunch at the edge of the mall, ordering dessert like he's 10 feet tall. Every mile, every roadside stop he saves, 'cause the trip was paid in points and president's graves. He's got apps on his phone, he's got stamps on his mind. Turn plastic into highways, into stories in kind. Waterfall mist on a thrift store shirt. He's rich in the roads that never quite make the alert. Casey's Pizza in the parking lot. Grease on the napkin, soda on his watch. He's a 40-something every dad, but he's getting what he never had. Bennigan's lunch at the edge of the mall, ordering dessert like he's 10 feet tall. Every mile, every roadside stop he saves on a quiet little life built of points and miles and presidents.
All right. Thanks for everyone who's hung in there. 66 people still on board. Thank you. By the way, I've never personally downloaded songs from Bandcamp. Have any of you done that? I'd love to get a couple data points. I read online you can download from there and then upload the song into Apple Music or Google Music or Samsung Music or your iPod Nano or whatever your favorite MP3 type player is. Is that accurate? Have you ever done that? I'm just curious. There is a link to this in the description box if you want to check it out. And I do get to keep 85% of all sales from that. All right. Let's catch up on comments now. Jason says, favorite fruit is peach yet again. Spring break week for some, Easter weekend, people coming and going with travel family plans, I would guess. Oh, yeah, it is Easter weekend. You would think I would know that. I just went to an Easter service on Thursday. Double Animal Fry says, mangoes from Thailand is his favorite fruit. Holy crap, they're amazing. New Again says, people not here today because you changed your mind. I'm here for it, baby. Change my mind. We're going to get into that theme of the day real soon. Double says, I think it was a tech issue. We're back up to 60 people on board. Yeah, probably just displayed. If anybody got kicked off and then got back on, please let me know. Travel Fan 11 is somebody asked about using Aeroplan points to boom, pay yourself back. Since all points transferred in are eligible for payback, the Aeroplan card is more valuable to have. I wasn't sure if there'd be different buckets of points for separation. Nope, there's no functional way to separate them out. I transferred points in from my wife's American Express account, and we pool our Aeroplan points together, which is actually really handy in this case because then I don't have to worry about who has 200,000 here, who has 200,000 there. It's just pooled. For a charitable purpose, I bought some plane tickets for somebody who needed them for something, but the amount that I transferred over ended up being a little bit more than I needed. So, is Aeroplan going to go like, ooh, these 6,000 points were left over from American Express, so we're going to spank you? I doubt it. And Travel Fan also says, I think about getting the card, I'm under 524. Unless you're in a place where you need to not have any credit inquiries, just see if they'll let you do it right now. In fact, they might even give you a pop-up. Ian says, I've not downloaded a song since 2003, but would you for your favorite YouTuber? That's the question. Travel Fan says, did you touch on the United Mileage Plus program or on the live stream? I did. Yuri said this is also Passover weekend. Again, good point. We talked about that in our Thursday service as well. So thank you to the 66 of you who stayed on board. We're going to get into the theme of the day right about now. And just in case I end up making this into a standalone segment, it'll sound like I'm starting from scratch. But you all know you know how this works. So thanks for hanging in there. Remember, the tip jar link is at the top of the description box if you want to make a donation where only a small portion of it is taken as a fee instead of a big portion. But don't get me wrong, if you give me a gift on YouTube, that triggers the algorithm, so that's useful in a different way. Oops, sorry. Thought I was done making dad noises, but apparently I wasn't. Got to make some asthma noises also. 5, 4, 3. Theme of the day today, the top 10 travel things I've changed my mind about. And yes, this is related to points and miles, but this is not the earning side. This is the redemption side. When I'm redeeming points and when I'm actually traveling, what's important to me and what's not. So this is going to be more travel focused than points and miles focused. What actually matters from my experience, and some of the things that I thought mattered back in 2019, 2020 when I first got into this, turns out doesn't matter nearly as much as I thought it did. And one of the key words here is from my experience. This is my take on things. What's important to me is not necessarily going to be what's important to you. Some people, for example, never ever rent cars because they want to just go to a city that has Uber or Lyft, be in the city center or around town, and just kind of stay there. And they're totally fine with that. I love traveling to presidents' graves. I love traveling to that little courthouse with the chain link fence, like the song says. So to me, I often need to rent a car to do what I want to do. So what's important to me, not the same as you. So keep that in mind. Miniature disclaimer here. These are in no particular order. So yes, I've called it top 10, but it's really just sort of like the 10 most important. I'm not necessarily counting down or anything like that. Number 1, non-stop flights. So when I first got into the game, I used to think non-stop is everything and would even do things like my first 2 RIP trips were to St. Louis because there was a direct flight from Des Moines. And I was like, I don't want to have a layover. And that seems pretty lame, because St. Louis is like a 45-minute flight from Des Moines. But that's what I was planning on looking into or using for almost everything. Well, plans changed. Now, the amount of friction that you have in your travel and the timing matter a lot more. So like if the only options are a non-stop flight that leaves at 11 o'clock p.m. or a flight with a single layover in a decent airport where maybe you have a comfortable layover like an hour and a half and I get to leave at like 5 o'clock right after work is done, I would actually take that. So less friction, not being tired when you arrive, those kind of things are more important to me. And then if we need to add just a little bit of nuance to that, frequently I have no choice because the market I live in is a small-ish airport, Des Moines, Iowa, the Des Moines International Airport. Little bit coming on that in the next week. I'm putting out a whole video about some nuances as it relates to points and miles living in a market like Des Moines. So yeah, if I want to go to New York City or Dallas or Denver or Charlotte, North Carolina or Miami or Phoenix, I'm cool. I got nonstop options. But if I want to go to Albany or Norfolk or Panama City Beach or something like that, there's not going to be a choice. Even going to Pittsburgh, there's no nonstop flights. I have to have a layover in that case for the flight that I'm actually taking this spring. Number 2, flight timing. So I used to ignore it and make my selection based on best price or the points value alone. So if one flight was, say, 6,000 American Airlines points and another was 10,000, I'd be like, oh man, I'm taking the 6,000 one. Now, the time of day can make or break a trip. And I kind of hit on this in the last one. And maybe it's as I get older, but even in the last 5 years, my tolerance for traveling at weird times has become less and less of a thing. Whoop, I went too far. I thought there was a nuance there. But basically think of it this way. Like, I don't want to wake up super early. I've done it before. I've taken like, the 7 a.m. flight. We have to be at the airport at like 5:45. And it's exciting to wake up. But man, you hit the middle of the afternoon, I'm just wiped. And like that day is kind of wasted and I can't enjoy it. So I really don't want to fly before like 9 a.m. if I can help it. And I don't want to start a flight before about 6 o'clock in the evening if I can help it. Yeah, that generally means flights that cost more points are more expensive, but you know what? It can be worth it depending on, a variety of factors. I don't want to be tired. I want to be able to enjoy the entire next day. I'll pause for comments here briefly, see what's going on here. Jake's Points and Miles wants to know, happy Easter, Doug. Does Chase have a better grocery card than the Aeroplan card? No, unfortunately they do not, unless you're talking rotating categories, like if it comes to the Freedom Flex, but that's sort of like a hope and a prayer type thing. 75 people on board. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Bryjack says, I think we can all generally agree that we like it when the planes don't stop mid-flight. I agree with that too. Awkward. Travel fan 11 gives a $2 super chat and says, you are awesome. Thanks for using my suggestion. Celebrate. You're welcome. I really appreciate that. By the way, if you are a Dugroz diehard, I did ask my diehard yesterday, what should I do for a travel theme? And this was in the neighborhood of one of them. I didn't really remember specifically who recommended it, but apparently it was Travel Fan. So thank you. I'm very happy to use it. And thank you for giving me the suggestion. I did have some input from an AI chatbot kind of prompting me what would be easiest as well. And this one won. Back to the main event in 5, 4, 3. Number 3 is airline loyalty. There's a picture of me saying that there's going to be some renovations coming to the Des Moines airport soon. So I used to think early on when I got into Points and Miles, I thought the airline loyalty mattered for me. At first I was like, well, usually we fly American when we go to see grandma and grandpa down in Arizona, and American has 2 or 3 hubs they fly to directly, so I should be loyal to American. And then like a year later, I took a Delta flight, and it was a really good experience. The customer service was great. The flight attendants were friendly. Gate agents were great. The seats were more comfortable. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a Delta guy. Well, that never actually happened. Now I realize that best route is greater than loyalty all day, every day. And this one has some nuance to it as well, based on living in a small market airport. There might only be one flight that takes the route that I want. So yeah, I could be like, let's say I want to go to, what's a good example? Pensacola, Florida. I don't know if Delta flies there or not. Let's say they do. But like if I fly on American, I can fly from Des Moines to Dallas, have a layover, hit a Capital One lounge, then continue on to Pensacola. If I go with Delta, the only option is to fly to Detroit, and then from Detroit to Atlanta, and then Atlanta to Pensacola, and it's way less convenient. I'm going to choose the routing over my loyalty. I'm going to fudge some points. I'm going to fudge some money. For me, I would much rather have the best route, the flexibility, the loyalty all day, every day. In fact, these first 3 are all kind of like in that same basket of like, I'm going to take what's convenient over what's optimized. And that really affects your approach of like what card you get too, because I'm probably not going to ever have a Delta credit card unless I get it just for the sign-up bonus, which is possible. But in terms of using it regularly to earn Delta points or Delta perks, nah. I see that QC Man stops by and gifts 1 Dugroz Reports membership. Celebrate. Thank you so much, QC Man. You are both consistent and loyal, and I appreciate it. 76 people on board. Let's keep on clicking thumbs up, making comments and/or donations, and see if we can drive that up into the mid 80s. Let's see if we can hit 85, and keep an eye out. If we hit it, let me know. Resuming the theme of the day. In 5, 4, 3. Number 4 thing I've changed my mind about since I started, hotel brand loyalty. There's a picture of me next to a Holiday Inn Express in Foley, Alabama, close to the Gulf Coast. So I used to try to be loyal to hotels, even if I wasn't perfect about it. Early on, I kind of picked my partners and said, I'm just going to do IHG and Hyatt for everything. I like the IHG credit cards. Hyatt, of course, you can get good value. I kind of thought like Holiday Inn Expresses are pretty solid. You know, I'm going to stay in them all the time. Well, my thinking has evolved on that a little bit. Not that there's anything wrong with IHG or Hyatt by any means, but now location, the rating of the hotel, and many other factors are greater than the brand itself. While IHGs are great, don't get me wrong, it feels like I can earn more points with other tricks. And I don't want to have like a free night cert here, here, here. I don't have points here, 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 all spread out. I want to be a little more focused. So like brand loyalty on the hotel side is not that big of a deal to me. For a minimal amount of hotel loyalty, it's Hilton for me, but that's more ancillary factors like guaranteed connecting rooms. It's super easy to have the gold status. It's super easy to use the Surpass card, even though I don't use it for spending, those kind of things. Number 5, free breakfast. Look at those 2 pictures. That's good. The bottom right picture is from the Hampton Inn by Hilton in York, England. And that was a free breakfast because Hampton Inns just have free breakfast. And then the left picture is at the Salamander Resort in Middleburg, Virginia, on the outskirts of Washington, D.C. Oh, man, that looks good. And I got it free because of some weird promotion. I got their top status by having an Aeroplan card. So that was pretty cool. But we do need to be a little more nuanced. I used to think free breakfast was worth expressly seeking out. Like if I have 2 different hotels that are equally good. In fact, the second one's maybe even a little nicer and fits my schedule and fits the location better, but the first one has free breakfast. I would go out of my way to get the one with free breakfast. Now it's a little more nuanced and it depends on a variety of factors. Just to mention a few of those. I love a free breakfast, but I don't mind paying for breakfast if a hotel is better in other ways, especially when it's solo travel, Airbnb, etc. So there are times where I just really want to stay in like a comfy cabin that's close to where I am, especially if it's in a relatively rural area. I'm not going to drive an hour away to get to the Holiday Inn Express that has a free breakfast. The other factor is sometimes I just want a slightly nicer hotel that has like a restaurant on site because maybe I'm going to be out all day. I'm not going to be able to eat supper until like 7 or 8 p.m. It's nice just to be able to go downstairs, in which case I'll be buying breakfast the next morning probably, unless I have status or something like that. If it's like a $15 breakfast, I don't mind paying for it, especially when I'm solo. Now, having said that, if my whole family's with me, it's a little more important. Like breakfast in Washington, D.C. basically comes out to like $25 a person, and that's $100. So I'm more likely to seek out a Hampton Inn or an Embassy Suites or Holiday Inn Express or something like that if I'm with my whole family, so they can all get free breakfast so that I don't have to break the bank on that. If you've watched me for any length of time, you know that I have a rule that I have to have a net zero travel policy where my travel doesn't eat into my family budget at all. So I don't budget anything for travel, which means if I have uncovered expenses, including breakfast, if I'm not getting it free, if I'm not charging to my room and then use the Aeroplan card or something like that, I have to pull it out of my travel savings account. Pulling $15 out because I'm traveling solo and it's in a area like Albany, New York, that's not that expensive, that's fine. Downtown Washington, D.C., where it's $25 a person, there's all 4 of us, now it costs $100. That's a little more ouchy and a little harder to stomach. I'll check on comments here. QC Man says, I'm in late today. I will watch the replay from the start later. Hey, awesome. Thank you, QC Man. If, like QC Man, you're watching this on replay, unlike the people that are live right now, put a comment down below. Tomato was last week. So this week, I'm just going to say your favorite fruit. which could be tomato because the US government says it's a fruit, but it could be something else. Just one word, or you can use the emoji peach, banana, apple, tomato, passion fruit, whatever. Ziza says, I think the ad interruptions that lower view count. Sometimes my stream freezes as ads come in. It takes away from the show. That's good to know. I do need to make money, so it's hard for me to turn off the ads completely. I would suggest getting YouTube Premium, but it's something that I'll definitely take into account. FLXNY asked this, how do you earn points in so many ecosystems to be able to be a free agent for airlines and hotels? Well, that's easy. I mostly earn cash back or transferable currency, so they don't have to transfer them to one particular ecosystem. Maybe I should do a breakdown video on that in the near future. In fact, I'll screenshot that. That's a good question. I've gone over it in the past on my channel, but I think it's been like 2 years since I've done a real full-blown breakdown, and it's mostly sign-up bonuses. Vincent says, I stayed at the Hilton Shinjuku in Tokyo, tried breakfast there, then tried the Denny's right outside the hotel. The Denny's was much better. And that might be another reason not to obsess over free breakfast. Like at both of those examples I showed on the screen, they were really good. But we've all been to a hotel where it's like styrofoam plates, eggs poured out of a carton. They don't even have sausage or bacon or anything like that. And like a toaster pastry. I remember we stayed at a Days Inn once. It was kind of an emergency thing in far northern Wisconsin. And they didn't have any hot items for breakfast at all. It was all like cold cereal and toast. Other than if you went up to the check-in desk and specifically asked them, they would hand you a microwavable breakfast sandwich that was like a biscuit with a piece of sausage and an egg in the middle, and you could microwave it. So in that case, I probably would have gone to the Denny's. You're right. By the way, I didn't know they had Denny's in Japan. Hey, we got up to 82 people on board. Keep clicking the thumbs up button. That'll help bring more people in. We're almost at 85. QC Man says, just drag your family down the street to McDonald's and get them all McGriddles for breakfast. That's a good idea too. But man, I do love waking up and just walking downstairs, not having to leave. Like durian. I don't know what that's a reference to, but good to see you, Don Kim. Yuri says, I was under the impression that Des Moines is larger than Knoxville, but I checked and Knoxville has more traffic with the same number of gates. Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure where the Knoxville airport falls, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're about the same size. New Again says, because I'm not loyal or even captive to any brand, a CSR is better than Amex Platinum, way more upside. But last time I checked in January, Capital One Portal had far more vacation rentals than anyone. I agree with all of those things you just said. Cesar is here, mi hermano. Good to see you, brother. Thanks for checking in. Good morning, everyone. New Again clarifies Chase just started adding vacation rentals in its portal. We'll see how that goes. We'll keep a careful eye on that. What is shaping up? No Way Hefe says Denny's is not a place you go to. It's a place you end up at. Sort of like Waffle House. One of my very first videos on this channel was like reviewing the Waffle House near the Hyatt Place in Kansas City. I thought I was big stuff. I was traveling. Let's move on. Keep going with the theme of the day here. Resuming in 5, 4, 3. Number 6, my planning style. What do I mean by that? I used to try to optimize value and cents per points to the 10th degree, like super optimization. I will even admit that there have been a few times in my points and miles career, the last 6 to 7 years, where I have chosen cents per point over a place I actually wanted to stay because for some reason I felt like I had to have bragging rights or something like that. Now I book with good enough value and move on. Now that doesn't mean I don't look at the numbers. You know, I know there's some people out there that are like, I don't even look at cents per point. I'm like, I look at it because at a bare minimum, as you know, you should know, is this deal better than buying points? Is this deal better than just using cash? So at least know where you're at. But once I do that kind of good enough check and move on, I'm not going to stress about it too much. If I see the exact Hilton property that I want and it's kind of close to where I'm staying and I can check in and it looks nice, has good ratings, I'm going to look. Now, if it's around like 0.2 cents per point, I'm not going to use points on it. But if it's like 0.47, 0.53, I'm going to say good enough. Let's book that. maybe there's an IHG property an hour away where I could get like an amazing 2 cents per point, which would be incredible for IHG points, but it's an hour away. I'm not going to worry about that 10th degree. I'm just going to say good enough and move on. If you wonder how the picture ties into what I'm saying right now, so that's a picture of the Hyatt Place / Hyatt House. It's 2 Hyatts in one in East Moline, Illinois. And my family stayed there 3 times. It's a category 1 Hyatt, which is awesome. I don't know if it's changing in May or not, if it's amongst the ones changing, but yeah, 5,000 points is a tremendous value. So it's like 1.5, 1.7 cents per point. You know, that's definitely good enough. So like my son's done a chess tournament there twice. If we go back in the future, I'm not even going to think about it because it's close to where we need to be. Hyatt points are worth, 1.5 to 1.7 cents per point. I'm going to say good enough, book it, good breakfast, or at least decent breakfast, great location, move on. There is some nuance that includes using things like free night certificates, credits, expiring points, etc. You'll remember back in the Dugroz data points, I said I have an IHG free night certificate that's expiring. I don't think I'm going to say good enough to the point where I just let that expire. So like I still haven't booked my hotel for the last 2 nights. I'm pretty sure it's going to be at an IHG property because there's some that are like maybe not as good as a Hyatt, but still free beats them. So I got to take that into consideration. Like if I have Wyndham points that expire, I'm like, fine, I'll use my expiring points. But I'm trying my darndest to get out of that. I'm trying not to have a little bit of points here and there. I'm trying not to over-endorse free night certificates. I'm trying to not have a bunch of cards like the City Strata Elite where I have to book hotels in their portals. I just don't travel enough that I need like credit there. There feels like there should be a good rule of thumb. And somebody suggested this on like a Discord or a comment. I don't remember who it was. I apologize. I did screenshot. I'll look it up if I ever do a standalone video on this topic. But sort of like you should make a rule for yourself that like all of your free night certificates, hotel portals, all that added up together should be no more than 1/3 of your annual hotel nights. Because you need at least 2/3 to kind of be flexible and stay where you want to stay, where you're not forced into things. People that are just like, oh, well, I'm definitely going to stay in a couple hotels this year. So yeah, why not get the Strata Elite and use their hotel credit? Like, well, but if I've already got a FNC dedicated to that night and a free credit dedicated to that night, and I've got expiring points dedicated to that night, I'm running out of slots where I can use that, where points and miles are forcing me to travel a certain way, and I don't want that to happen. So there is some nuance there. I don't want to ignore the free stuff, but I also don't want to build my travel ecosystem so that I have to do all that free stuff all the time. Number 7, guided tours. We got a couple pictures here of some tour guides, and I'll mention who they are in just a few moments. Prior to about 3 or 4 years ago, really like our first trip to England, I used to think I'd rather be in control. So if I'm going to a museum or a landmark or something like that, I'm like, I want to pick what exhibit I see when I see it. I don't want to walk in and walk up to the desk and sign up for the guided tour. My thinking on this has changed 180 degrees. I love guided tours to the point where I almost won't go to a place if they don't have guided tours. Like when I went to, well, I'll just mention the 2 examples here. So on the right, with the man wearing the sash pointing up to the side, that's Raymond. And he was at the Hereford Cathedral in Hereford, England, the first time we went there in 2023. He made that experience. He was so passionate. I think he was a volunteer. First of all, the fact that he wore a sash and a name tag really makes it. But he is like the GOAT of tour guides. My kids will even say to this day, like, best tour guide ever trophy, Raymond. He'd make mumbling British jokes about, oh, that date over there belongs over here. But we don't worry about those kind of things. Dull British laughter. And then the other guy in the picture is named Bob, and he was at the Smithsonian Museum of American History. And he told this funny story about like thinking baby carrots were actually small carrots that were grown. Nope, they're made from leftovers and scraps. And one of my boys was like, that blew my mind. I never thought about that. He just did such a great job and brought it all to life. So I don't really have any nuance on that. I just love guided tours, and I will go out of my way to get a guided tour. I guess I'll say I have had like a range. There's the goats like Bob and Raymond. Then there's the mediocre tour guides, and that's still okay. And then I've had one or two where it was like not a good fit. At the Smithsonian Aviation Museum in Washington, D.C., we went to the one that's out close to Dulles Airport, and the tour guide there was like so into the nerdy niche stuff of aviation that he spent way too much time on like the first 3 exhibits he stopped at that we didn't have enough time to get to the rest, and we just had to kind of abandon the tour. I was like, here is an airplane that was the first ever 2-wing design or biplane design in France in the 1800s. Now I'm going to spend 30 minutes telling you about the guy who made it. I'm like, a little more info than I wanted to know. If you were an av geek, like of av geeks, you would probably love it, but it was just a little too much detail for our family. But on the whole, guided tours are where it's at. I'll pause and catch up on comments here. Let's see, where were we? Got some people saying hi to each other here. Yuri says Knoxville Airport is terrible. POJ, piece of junk, I assume. Vincent says Denny's in Japan actually had awesome food. QC Man says, do not denigrate the greatness of Waffle House, Doug, although I probably wouldn't go there at 2 a.m. if it was near a bar or club. Yeah, sometimes a Waffle House hits just right, but you never know what you're going to see there. Pro Western Civ says, does anyone have data points on how far ahead to book Black Lane for best price? Good question. I don't think we've met before, Western Civ, so good to see you. Source King booked a Hyatt House in Houston for Sweden's World Cup game. $800 cash or 8,000 points per night. Had to buy the points, but still worth it. Yeah, that would be worth it if it's the place you want to go when you want to go. Luke says, my guide at Arlington Cemetery told us Joe Louis only lost 1 fight in his career, and he won't his rematch against Max Schmeling at Madison Square Garden. Boxing fans will know she is dead wrong. Like I said, there's a range of tour guides. You have GOAT, mediocre, bad. So it kind of depends. Like the tour guide we had of the U.S. Capitol building was an intern who was working there in the summer, probably like a 20-year-old. And he was like mediocre to mid. It's sort of like I memorized these 30 facts and now just kind of repeat them. Chad says, I have to admit, Amex offers got me to use Viator and now I'm hooked. Same phenomenal experiences. Well worth it. Tiananmen Square and Great Wall private VIP tours was the bomb. I can see that. We did a private tour in DC on an electric cart, and that was worth it. That was also booked through Viator, which you can use in conjunction with your Aeroplan card, and boom, pay yourself back. Vincent says, I'm not sure if a Japanese location chain restaurants will honor AARP. Luke says, lost my comments. Joe Louis lost 3 fights. Rematch was at Yankee Stadium. Chad thinks Waffle House is the bomb. No Way Hefe says, thoughts on tipping tour guides? Tip the driver? I don't know. So I remember like tipping the tour guide in Washington, D.C. And I was like, am I tipping way too much? Am I tipping not enough? I probably feel like a cheapskate, but I don't know. Other people, I saw him hand him money, but I don't know how much they're handing him. I asked if there was any electronic tipping. He said, no, it's cash only. Same thing with the lady who gave us a tour at the Schönbrunn Palace in Vienna, Austria. I'm like, I gave her, I think, 10 euros as a tip. Somebody else tipped her. I don't know how much they gave. And she said, thank you, and smiled real big. I don't know what's right. Now, if it's a person that does free tours for tips only, I'm going to tip them more. But in both of those examples, they were, well, at least Viator was well paid. Nugan says, what's crazy is I'll cancel my Strata Elite before the U.S. bar. Make it make sense. No, I see where you're coming from. Tour guide was not a fan of Rocky. I thought we were talking about Joe Louis, not Rocky Marciano. There's probably a nuanced connection there. I did like 80s boxing, so I wasn't quite in that era. Vincent says, the Papal audience tour I booked on Viator helped me get the best spot to see the Pope. Very cool. Luke tips the guides and tour guides. The current Pope or the last one, current. Source King says, I had a guide teach me pachinko in Tokyo. I was the only participant on the tour, so we ended up hanging out and getting drunk. Interesting. That's a cool story. My wife and I toured the Salisbury House here in Des Moines a few Saturdays ago. Well, it was our late Valentine's Day. And same thing. We had a guided tour and we're the only people that showed up. There was a couple that joined in towards the end. But for most of it, it was a private tour, so you can answer as many nerdy questions as you want. Most tour guides, if they're a good one, an eligible one, actually love the nerdy question. Some more boxing clarification that I'm not going to be able to help with. I believe something about the Nintendo game Punch-Out was partially based on one of the Rockies, but don't quote me on that. Don Kim says, guided food tours are great because you often don't have to wait in line for local hotspots. I could see that. Some more boxing nuance. Feel free to talk about boxing. I probably just won't read them off here. All right, back to the theme of the day. 3 to go, and then we might have some extra credit. 5, 4, 3. Number 8, daylight and driving. And this isn't just about driving in the daylight, but just the value of daylight and driving. So when I first started out, I would ignore any considerations about daylight hours and would just fly whenever, drive whenever. Like I said, I guess I've aged terribly in the last 7 years, but now I embrace the daylight. I don't want to travel too early, and I also want to avoid night driving. Also, just maximizing daylight. So first of all, yes, the standard, the older you get, like I just don't like driving at night, especially on 2-lane roads where cars are coming at you. And now so many vehicles have those super bright purplish LED lights instead of the old 90s and 80s style incandescent ones that just destroys your eyeballs after about 45 minutes of night driving. My eyes are too old to handle that. So I try to avoid that. Now, I don't mind getting back to my hotel, 30 minutes after the sun goes down to maximize my time. In fact, I often will, if I'm traveling solo at least, my family doesn't like this as much, I will eat breakfast at the hotel, start my day, go out and see whatever graves, waterfalls, courthouses, parks, monuments, and not even eat lunch, just maybe have a, Twix at a gas station or something, get back at like 7 and then eat a late supper and just say that's fine. One of my superpowers is I can eat at weird times and pretty much be okay. So it's not just about my old mid to late 70s eyeballs and eating stronger and stronger glasses every year. It's also embracing daylight. And what that might mean is like, let me give you just a real life example here. So in my current trip that I'm planning, there's a lot of stuff in like the northern part of West Virginia. And then there's like some stuff in way southwest Pennsylvania, a little bit in Maryland I want to do. There's also the town of Marietta, Ohio, which is the first town established in the Northwest Territory. I read a book about it. It's awesome. But it's like 2 to 2.5 hours to the west. And I'd have to dedicate like an entire day to that. So if I skip that segment, I can do a lot more during daylight hours. So I still haven't made my decision yet, but I'm probably going to let Marietta go and save that for a different RIP trip. Maybe I'll do a Southern Ohio trip, Luke, in the near future, something like that. We can hang out. But the one where I'm flying into Pittsburgh, I don't know that I want to do that. So I kind of want to like pick things that are kind of close together and just embrace the daylight and do as many things as I can during daylight hours, especially in April when it's like perfect weather. I don't really want to be driving 2 hours during that valuable daytime hours and then having to drive 2 hours back and have my eyes go bad after the sun goes down. So yeah, I try to really embrace daylight and get as much done as I can during daylight hours. In Washington, D.C., all the museums closed at like 5. So you really had to think about like, don't do things at night. I'm not opposed to doing things at night, but night's going to be more for like sitting down, being calm, going to the swimming pool, eating at the restaurant, those kind of things. Maybe a fancy restaurant you want to go to. Save that for the nighttime hours. Do all your sightseeing during daylight hours. I totally botched it on my last trip to Galveston. I went to the grave of George Herbert Walker Bush, but I drove way out of my way to get there and used up like 6 hours of valuable daylight time just driving through Houston traffic. And I kind of made a rule for myself, like, I'm not going to drive more than 45 minutes one way out of my way to see a president's grave in the future, unless that's the only reason I'm going somewhere. I think I would have rather just gotten to Galveston more quickly. So the longer I go, the more I'm embracing the daylight and trying to keep things kind of close together, keep your driving during the daytime, don't have to drive too far, which is a little tricky with my love of seeing weird things like waterfalls. You have to drive a little bit out of your way, but I want to balance that, but I'm also definitely not in a fly whenever, drive whenever category. If you're wondering where that picture is, I think that was taken in either Virginia Beach or Norfolk, Virginia. I stayed at a middle of the road, Hampton Inn or Holiday Inn Express or Holiday Inn or something like that. I don't remember what it was. And it was fine. But the view out my window was like this hideous rundown, like house with like vehicles parked around. And I think some like really shady delivery company that was probably actually a front for dealing drugs or something was out my window in the back of the hotel. So definitely not the kind of thing you want to encounter at night. One thing of nuance I will say is that I will take a late flight to set me up for the next day. So I'm willing to compromise on this a little bit. Like, I'm not getting into Pittsburgh until like 9:15-ish, 9:30-ish. Now that'll be 8:30 my time. So yeah, I'll drive 45 minutes from Pittsburgh Airport to my hotel in Wheeling that first night. 45 minutes is okay. An hour is okay. An hour and 15 minutes is okay. Get going over that. But that's a trade-off I'm willing to make, because then my first full day, which is Saturday, I've got the whole day to explore. I don't have to reposition that very first day. So that sets me up nicely flying on a Friday night instead of a Saturday morning. If I flew on a Saturday morning, then I would only have a half day to spend on Saturday exploring. I took a long time on that one, so I'll pause for comments. Talking about the Pope. Talking about fighting. Don Kim says, guided food tours are great because you often don't have to wait in line for local hotspots. Oh, we already said that, but that's still a good thing. I got more boxing talk here. Here we go. New Again says, I like very little breakfast food. I rarely eat it. When I do, it's usually at fancy hotels 4 to 6 days a year. That's weird because I love breakfast food, but strangely enough, in real life, I don't eat breakfast hardly ever. Like I said, I have this weird superpower where I can eat at weird times. So oftentimes I'll wake up and just start working or start doing personal things I need to do and not eat anything till 1:30 in the afternoon. Then have a big lunch, a smallish supper, and be good. Luke says, let me know when you do Southern Ohio. I'll meet up. Awesome. And we can see that one weird mutant guy. What was it? Mothman? Wasp Man? Something like that? Will do. In fact, Cedarville, Ohio has a college called Cedarville University. My kids want to tour that. It's a Christian college out there. Is it close to Dayton? Does that sound right? New Again says, yeah, Lewis has been retired. Oh, yep, more boxing talk. No problem. Don't mind you talking about boxing. I'm just not going to go into it here. All right, let's keep going. Two more. 5, 4, 3. Number 9, a cash buffer. Buffer was the best word I could think of, but you'll see what I mean as I get into it. I used to have a points focus for everything. Like everything I paid for was with points. Like I would still do the math. If it was worse than the cash rate, I just wouldn't do it. And I'd go find a different hotel or airline or whatever I could use points on. So I would end up doing some not dumb things, but it was kind of like I didn't want to dip into my family budget. I hadn't set my net zero rule yet, but we didn't and still don't have truckloads of discretionary income. I'm a very middle-class guy, so I have to be careful. So what that would mean is, like, if I'm going to Virginia Beach, Virginia, I'll be like, oh, there's a Hampton Inn, that's fine. And then be like, oh, but the cents per point's really bad. Well, I can't stay there. I have to use something with points. How about this IHG? Oh, it's pretty good on points, but it's out of my way. No, okay, well, get all the way down to, like, I don't know, a Wyndham property. And it's like, oh, this is my 4th or 5th choice, but the points are good, so I'm gonna stay there. It was more like keep going until you find something good on points. And yes, this overlaps with things I said earlier. Now I use cash when it's better and just get what I want, even if it's a little more expensive, if there's no reasonable points option. Now, if there's a Holiday Inn Express and a Hilton right next door, and they're both equally good, and I'm totally cool with either of them, and one is a pretty good points price and one's a cash points, I'm going to take the pretty good points price, of course. But If the exact place I want to stay is right there and the only way it gives cash, that's what I'm going to do. Now, there is some severe nuance with this, and it puts me into a category where I feel like I'm the only person that thinks this way. Due to my net zero approach of not wanting to dip into my family budget, sometimes I still need to use points even when it's less than ideal. But the Aeroplan card helps with that a lot. And then my Golden Ponies card from Wells Fargo helps with that too. So like if I need to book a flight that doesn't have a good points option at all, because of that grandfathered Golden Ponies card, officially called the Visa Signature card, I can still get 1.5 cents in the portal. And while Wells Fargo has really clunky infrastructure, at least their points seem to be pretty fair on flights. I've never seen a huge ripoff. And then Aeroplan, oh man, comes in so handy. If I've got like a really cheap hotel night where it's like $95, but it's a great hotel, put it on the Aeroplan card, pay myself back. That works out well. And then if I really, really need to, I'll just pay cash. The two examples in the pictures here are last fall when I did my foliage run to look at fall foliage. I went to the American, which is a Wyndham property in Clear Lake, Iowa, and I just paid cash. Now, part of my incentive to pay cash was they were running a promotion at the time where the amount of Wyndham points you got was almost equal to the cash rate. But honestly, it was so inexpensive, I probably would have paid cash anyway. It was in like third week in October. There's really nothing going on. It's in low demand. It's kind of an interstate trucker type hotel, but it's a perfectly cromulent hotel. It was less than $100 a night. I think it was like $97 a night, or at most like 110, something like that. And then the picture on the left is an Embassy Suites in one of the suburbs of Chicago. I think it's Deerfield, but don't quote me on that. I went to see the Chicago Holocaust Museum with my sister and her family and my boys 2 or 3 Januaries ago. And January in Chicago is not very popular, so the cash rates were pretty low. It was like $110 for a room one night. Another night it was like $147. I think the highest was like $170. Kind of varied, but it averaged out to like $130, $140 a night. So I just paid cash in that particular case. I have to be careful. I can't do that too much because my travel savings account is sacred and it does get low from time to time. But I can definitely say I've shifted my focus from always looking for the best points option to just like, what's kind of the panoply, the whole cornucopia of options, and then pick from that. Number 10, what makes a trip good? And my shifting has thought on this a little too. My thoughts have shifted on this a little too. When I first got into points and miles, I occasionally fell for, and one more recently that I'd like to admit, fallen for maximizing value or luxury. Now I prioritize people, places, and smooth experiences. And you see I got a picture of my family there because this is even more important when you got your family with you. I think I have a nuance comment here. Yeah, there's multiple nuances. So one nuance is you need to stay out of the basement. Well, let me talk about my overall concept before I get into the nuances. You'll see I have a picture of 2 different hotels here. When I say this happened more recently than I'd like to admit, so 2 full summers ago, so summer of 2024, we went to Washington, D.C., spent the first 4 nights at an IHG property. It's that top one called the Intercontinental at the Wharf. I wanted to have the luxurious experience of staying at an Intercontinental, so I did, and I booked this. There was a few drawbacks. Now, was it a very nice hotel? It was an amazing hotel. Very fancy, very pinky in the air, for my standards at least. It's right on the water, so you're looking out of the Potomac River. There's lots of yachts. Yes, literal yachts parked right out in front. Probably Christopher Cross is playing some yacht rock. It had a pool on the roof. Man, it just reeked of luxury. But there was a couple drawbacks. One is the IHG status that comes with the IHG business card or any of the IHG cards is the second highest status, and it does not give you free breakfast unless you spend like $1 jillion a year or something like that. So we had to pay for breakfast, and this was the place where I said it was never less than $25 per person. So I dropped $100 for 4 nights. I dropped $400 on breakfast. And it's like, ouch, that's not a smooth experience, because then you get to the point where you're like, oh, do I just get toast? No, I want something good. It's a little too fancy pants. Also, like, I don't mind sticking out like a sore thumb, but my rest of my family is a little bit more particular about that. They don't want to walk through the lobby wearing cargo shorts and Iowa State t-shirts while there's a fancy convention going on with people wearing formal evening gowns and tuxedos. So it just feels a little uncomfortable, somewhat. Not a bad experience. It was very fancy. Glad I tried it at least once. Will I do it again? Probably not. The other thing was the wharf is a little further south, so you're not like right downtown. So you had to take a bus or an Uber shuttle to get to everything. The second picture at the bottom is the Embassy Suites by Hilton, and it was not as nice of a hotel, but boy, the place, the experience, the way my family felt was way smoother. First of all, they're all suites, so we had, our guaranteed connecting rooms. I didn't have to worry about begging the staff for connecting rooms, which, the IHG did. They even gave us an upgrade to a corner room. But we didn't have to worry about that. Breakfast was free and included, so I didn't have to drop $400 on breakfast. Got fifth night free, which is not as good as IHG's fourth night free. And it was also right downtown, so easier to get to places. We had more options for eating. One of the places that we ate is the picture right here, a place called Abraham Lincoln's Waffle House. It's right across the street from Ford Theater. And it was one of the less expensive places. Actually, the concierge told us about it. It's like, hey, you can walk down there. It's like, kind of a greasy spoon. And it was more reasonable, like $15 a plate instead of $25 bare minimum. Now, here's the nuance. You do want to stay out of the basement. So you're probably not going to want to get like a Roadway Inn or a Travel Lodge or a Super 8 on the south side of Chicago in the hood, just to say like, oh, well, it's a smoother experience because it has free parking. I'm still going to want to stay out of the basement and go for more like at least like a Hampton Inn or Holiday Inn Express level. Secondly, when I say stay out of the basement, that Waffle House that is pictured here, literally their bathrooms were in the basement, and it was so sketchy. It was like damp and moldy, and you have to walk through this storage area to get there. And there's like one light bulb dangling from a wire that's about to fall down in the entire basement. I'm pretty sure at least 3 people have been murdered in that basement in history. So literally you want to stay out of the basement in that example. The other part of the nuance is that the mid-range can be ideal. So like an Embassy Suites, a Hilton by Hilton is a good one. Like when we stayed in London, we stayed at the Hilton Tower Bridge, which is like the Hilton branded Hiltons are not like way up there. They're not like a Conrad, but they're also like, a little nicer than a Hampton Inn is going to be. And that's a pretty good range. Those and Embassy Suites, like a Holiday Inn. Now, Holiday Inns can vary a lot. There's some crappy ones and some good ones. So read your reviews. But that kind of mid-range is really good for smoothing things out for us. And then, like I said, if you're going downtown to a city like Washington, D.C., or I've never been there, but New York City, I mean, I was as a kid, but I've never been there as a points and miles person. Location at a mid-tier is probably going to beat luxury at a high tier. Luxury is not what makes the trip good. Smooth experiences makes the trip good, at least for me. Now, some people want to spend all day in the hotel. You probably feel differently. That doesn't suit our style. I'll check comments, and then I've got one more bonus thing to discuss here. Okay, QC Man says, same Dugroz. I'll eat a fancy breakfast at hotels, but hardly ever eat breakfast most days. Yeah, and just to clarify, when I like breakfast food, it's like biscuits and gravy, a nice, well-made omelet, eggs Benedict, that kind of stuff. New Again says, I heard on the newsies that Maestro Dugroz overdosed after this seminal concert. Is this true? Will any music be released posthumously? We're not really sure what happened to Maestro Dugroz. We know he was doing his thing back at the Grand Bavarian Resort back in the 60s and 70s. Did he just fall out of style? Is he dead? No one's really sure, so we're still trying to figure that out. There will be more music released. I do guarantee that, though. So go to dugroz.bandcamp.com. If you do buy a song that supports me, let me know if you do. I'd love to hear it. FLX says, are you typically paying cash for the hotel brand's corresponding credit card when you're not using your Aeroplan card? Typically would probably be a little bit over generous. I don't really have a typical other than with Hilton. I do have the Hilton Surpass. So if I'm paying cash, that's where it's going. We used that a couple different times when we were in Europe last time. I no longer have an IHG card. I don't have a Hyatt card. I have a Marriott Bonvoy Boundless, but have never used it because really I'm just going for getting the Ritz card. And once I upgrade to that, then I'll use that for Marriott's. Yeah. So otherwise, what would I go with? Well, it would have been my Altitude Reserve. I don't know if I'd still do that now. I guess as long as I have a CSR, I'll do that. Wait, does the CSR still get 3x on hotels? Or is it only airfare you get 4x? That's a good question. If I stayed at like a Best Western, booking direct, not through a portal, and I don't have their co-branded card, what am I going to pay with? And let's say I don't have enough Aeroplan points or I don't want to use Aeroplan. I don't even know, man. Suggestions are welcome. Source King says, January in Chicago is great. A lot fewer clueless tourists walking into each other. Yeah, absolutely. Luke says, Doug, same experience at the Intercontinental Willard this week for me. If I'm just making a guess here, it seems like you're probably a little more accepting of like luxury for the sake of luxury than I am, Luke. Tell me if I got that wrong. But you also seem like the kind of guy that can go eat at Abe Lincoln's Waffle House and be totally happy. YouTube Experience says, I just got off driving home, listening, not watching. Awesome. Thanks, YouTube Experience. Chad says, I love a breakfast buffet, but it has to be quality, like fresh sliced fruit, no open up canned fruit. Yeah, I hear you here. Yuri clarified CSR is 4x on hotel, so that would probably be the card I would use if it's a chain other than Hilton or Wyndham right now. QC Man says, murder in the basement sounds like a murder mystery. Ooh, I'm going to screenshot that because that would make a great song track title for my next album. Very minor key. New Again says, you're right about Holiday Inns. I'll add it to most IHG mid-tier brands are all over the... Excuse me. Let me start over. New Again says, you're right about Holiday Inns. I will add that most IHG mid-tier brands are all over the place. Looking at you, Crown Plaza. I stayed at a Crown Plaza called the Desmond in Albany, New York. That was actually really nice. They had a restaurant in there named Mr. D's. Oh, man, the dessert I ate there was so good. I have to show you a picture right now. So I'm going to my photo album. I'm typing in Albany, and I'm typing in food. And those two things put together will get me exactly what I want. I think this works. There it is. Look at that. It was called the chocolate chipper or something like that. It is vanilla ice cream on top of a fresh, warm, giant chocolate chip cookie, chocolate strewn across it with pecans on it. Oh, man. I would just about commit a crime to get that again. That was so good. And yeah, that was at a Crown Plaza. So yeah, some are really good. I've also seen some that look like they're about to fall down. So it seems like Hilton has more consistency with quality than IHG does, for whatever that's worth. That might be why I prefer them slightly more. But I've stayed at my share of IHGs. I'm going to be staying in another one in about 3 weeks. So that's totally fine. All right, back to the main event here. We've got a bonus category here. Resuming in 5, 4, 3. Bonus, flexibility and rest. What do I mean by that? I used to want the perfect plan for a trip and use every moment. It's like, holy cow, we're only going to Washington, D.C. We're only going to England once in our life. We got to use every moment. We've got to push, push, push. And it doesn't matter if we're exhausted. We got to have all of the experiences. Now I build optionality into the schedule, built-in rest days, and just realize you can't do everything. So yes, when we were in London, we never got to see Westminster Cathedral on the inside. We wanted to. Is that a big deal? No, it's really not. But you know what? we had optionality built in, and I got to do this really cool thing at the Old Royal Naval College that was probably just as good. And we got to have an experience that's one of those 15-minute conversations you have with someone that'll last your whole life. It was a World War II survivor, a old woman now who was a child at the time. When I talk about realizing you can't do everything, I know if you want to go to England, there's probably like, oh, I got to see Stonehenge. I got to see the changing of the guard. I got to see Westminster Cathedral. I got to see the Queen. I got to see, the rolling countryside. I got to go to Wales. I got to go to Cornwall. I got to go to Scotland. There's too much. It's like, no, just pick a region, pick a handful of things and call it good. Actually, that's one of the beautiful thing about Points and Miles is these aren't once in a lifetime trips. They're like once every 5-year trips. So you're probably going to be able to go back if you want to go back because of Points and Miles. Thank you, Points and Miles. Optionality in schedule means like, let's say I'm going somewhere, but it's like, all right, on Monday I'm going to be here, and then I'll stay there into Tuesday, so I can go to this waterfall, this president's grave, this museum, this landmark of some kind. But you can kind of pick the order in which they go. So don't make your schedule so tight that if you miss one thing, it throws off the rest of your schedule. I have done that occasionally. Even our first England trip, we wanted to see Oxford, and I tried to cram it in, and it was not ideal. So try to build in optionality as much as you can. That's something I do now. If it's a long weekend rip trip, I'm not building in a rest day. But if I'm taking my family with me on a 10 or 15-day vacation, we're going to build in rest days. One of those is pictured here. So we were in Wales the first time, and we wanted to just have the last day kind of at our cabin. It had such a beautiful view. We just wanted to hang out. We're like, what can we do that's close? There's this little castle about 45 minutes away, maybe an hour at most, pictured. And it's called Bronte's Castle. It's not big. There's no tour guides. There's not even like a booth where you pay to get in. You just walk up and look at it. We were the only people there until as we were leaving. You just go inside and look around. It was the first castle we'd ever been to, and it was perfectly cromulent. And then on the way there, we stopped this little tiny town called Three Cocks. Yes, that was the name, Three Cocks. Talking about roosters, of course. And there's this little tiny restaurant. I don't remember what it's called, but it's pictured here. It was a perfectly great day. It was a rest day. All we did was go see the castle, eat at the restaurant, come home, hang out. I think we had frozen pizza in the evening, got to take naps. It was a wonderful day. No regret whatsoever. Here's an example of opportunistic sightseeing that I mean. So again, we just went to a place. We didn't know what we were doing, but we had a few different options. And it's like, maybe we'll go see a lake. And after we got to our cottage, we met the proprietor, and she said something like, oh yeah, there's also a lake right over there about 2 miles away. You can hike if you want to, but you have to really go around, and it's super muddy, so you might not want to do that. Or you can just drive down this one road, and it's like 15 minutes. There's a parking lot. And we're like, we weren't planning on going to that particular lake, but because the schedule had enough adjustment in it, we could fit that in. It ended up being called Lake Craifnant, and or Loch Craifnant, which is basically their word for lake in Welsh. It was the most beautiful lake I've ever been to in my entire life, and I would love to go back there. But you know what? There's probably 20 other lakes in Wales that are just as beautiful, so maybe we'll hit up a different one next time. And if I had tried to schedule everything like, oh, we're going to the ocean on this day, we're going to the pier on this day, we're going to drive up to Liverpool and see the Beatles Museum on this day, and we're going to visit the smallest house in Great Britain on this day. If I had scheduled it that tightly, we never would have seen this. We never would have seen this lake. So I think one of the fun things about travel is seeing things you weren't planning on seeing, whether it's an amazing hot dog stand or whatever. The lady yelling out, "More delicious food, guys," from the food truck, some funny random story. The grandma who criticizes you for asking for steak sauce, drinking milk on the plane. Whatever, these golden stories that you'll always remember, the places you see are only possible if you leave a little bit of flexibility in your schedule and don't try to cram in every single minute must be used for things. All right, so it's chat time. What have you changed your mind on in the world of Points and Miles? I'd love to hear your stories of like, I used to do this, maybe overplan. Now I don't. I used to always be loyal to Marriott. Now I'm not. I used to think status is important. Now I don't. Maybe you're the exact opposite of me, where you used to be a free agent and now you're super loyal to one chain. Let me know. That concludes the theme of the day. Thank you. All right. Man, I got a bad haircut last time. Look how long it is on top compared to the sides. I almost have to go to it wasn't my regular person. I need to go back to my barber and say, fix this. All right. Catching up on comments here. Where I talk about that. QC Man says, were you eating nuts at Mr. D's? It was spelled just the letter D apostrophe S. Mr. D's was the name of the restaurant inside the Albany Crown Plaza. Source King says, I get the feeling music is your true passion. It is, honestly. But the type of music I like is so niche. It's like 9 out of 10 people are like, I don't care about that kind of music whatsoever. So yeah, honestly, I would probably, now that I found out that AI music exists, like you don't have to be a composer and hire an orchestra, I would probably give up YouTube as it relates to Points of Miles and just do music content creation if there was a market for it. But the market is so saturated. My niche is so tiny. I would have to settle for like 30 fans. So don't worry. Points of Miles isn't going anywhere. And honestly, they kind of go together because I can travel to like little record stores and stuff and pick up old rare records. QC Man says, you'll have a tough time seeing the Queen these days, Doug. Let's see. Was she still alive the first time we went? When did Queen Elizabeth die? I'm sure Google knows. When did the Queen die? September of 22. Yep, she'd been dead for a year when we were there. So you're right. It would have been hard to see the Queen. Source King says, that's why I like traveling alone. If you want to not leave the hotel one day, I don't have to clear that with anyone. Yeah, there are some definite advantages to traveling alone. I really like it. But I also like traveling with my family. So what I wouldn't want to do is travel with like a group of people that I don't know very well. Then you'd really be stuck. Just to clarify, the Points of Miles meetups, those don't count because A, we all have common interests, and B, I do know like half of you pretty well. QCM is refraining from the Three Cocks joke. It's the name of a town in Wales. That's all it is. Ocean Disciple says, what did you use for photo searching? I have Apple products. So I have an iPhone to take my pictures and I do it on a MacBook. So I'm using a MacBook right now. So just go to my Photos app and type in the things I need to type in. By the way, I don't think we've met, Ocean Disciple. Good to meet you. There's a nerdy card game called Mana Forge. It's very niche. And on the last category of event you try to accomplish, there's this thing that's like a picture of an ocean. It's got whales in it. And my kids and I always jokingly call it Save the Whales. So every time we play the game, if you don't save the whales, we get mad. Ocean Disciple also says, I personally overplan, but keep it super flexible once on the ground. There's some nuance there. Like if you plan lots of different options, but then pick which option when you're on the ground, that's a little different. New Again says, I book hotels through portals, unless it's a Hilton, but closing my platinum, so no more gold status or reason to book direct. Gotcha. Did you used to avoid portals? FLX from NY says, I used to favor Marriott, but now I prefer Hyatt and Hilton. I like that I don't get charged fees, destination resort fees, and taxes on stays with FNCs and points. Awesome. Does Marriott have taxes on point stays? I know they have destination resort fees. QC Man says, I made the same change in perspective about doing tours. I thought the same thing about the freedom to go wherever I want to by myself, but you learn a lot if you have a good guide. Absolutely. And you learn things that aren't on the plaques, or it's so obtuse or obscure on the plaques that it kind of comes to life with a guided tour. All right, so we are now going to transition into the community tab question time. Last I looked, we had very few, maybe not any, but we still have to guess where the picture was taken, so I got to get to that if nothing else. So every Friday, usually somewhere between like 5 and 7 p.m., although I was tardy and didn't get to it till 7:45 yesterday, I'll put a community tab out where you can guess where the picture was taken, and you can ask me any questions that you want to ask about points, miles, cashback, credit cards, etc. So here is today's picture. There's me standing in front of a sign that says Skips. And then here's a picture of me. Well, it sure looks like I'm eating something. So you can guess where that picture was taken if you want to, or ask me anything. And I will now pull up the community tab and look at it along with you to see what questions people may or may not have. Somebody said anonymously, do a topic on the best Casey's pizza toppings. Well, I don't know about a whole topping, but or a whole live stream about it. But if you just want my answer, I generally think beef is the best. Their beef is sort of like the size of a sausage. It's just a mild beef instead of like a spicy sausage, and it just hits the spots. Any Casey's pizza is good as long as it doesn't have like anchovies or peppers on it. Let's see. In terms of guessing where the picture is taken, Catch 631 says, I know the sign is Skips over on Fleur, but I'm going to say, based on you being tricky, the picture of you eating is from Francie's right next to Skips. You wouldn't make it so easy with the restaurant in the first picture. Well, guess what? Reverse psychology, I did make it super easy. I was in a big hurry last night. So yes, there is a restaurant called Skips right here in Des Moines. It's actually like 3 blocks from the Des Moines International Airport. And I'm filming that video about the Des Moines Airport right now. And the same day I ate at Skips. So I just took a picture in front of the sign. And yes, that's a picture of me eating inside of Skips. To be more specific, it is the steak sandwich. And it was pretty good. It's not the most expensive. It's not the least expensive. It's somewhere in the middle. It's kind of expensive for Des Moines standards, but probably a lot of you big city folks would think it's pretty reasonably priced. I think with tip, it was like $37 or something like that. A soft drink, tip, and the meal. Let's see. Luke D. Johnson says the picture's in Des Moines, Iowa. Not wrong, but I'll only give half points. So I'll give you 500 Dugroz points for that. Catch 631 gets the full 1,000 Dugroz points for a correct guess. By the way, Catch, are you from the Des Moines, Iowa area? Let's see. And Ron Burns says a little internet sleuthing says Skips is a restaurant near the Des Moines airport. Yes, that's correct. So you also get 1,000 Dugroz points. Have you ever tried the Casey's brand of chips or soda? Also creamy peanut butter or chunky peanut butter? I have not tried the Casey's brands of chips. I had a coworker who just recently told me that their dill pickle ball chips are really good, but I haven't actually tried them. Creamy peanut butter, chunky. Everybody in my family likes creamy, so that's what we get. But if I had my druthers for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I would go with chunky. I like having a little bit of chunks. So Ron, you also get 1,000 Dugroz points. Luke gets 1,000 Dugroz points. Luke gets 500. Catch gets 1,000. Bob Travel says this: after a late fall trip along Michigan's Sunset Coast, you stopped at Skips in New Buffalo, Michigan to warm up for a hot meal. Lake Michigan angry in the fall. No, but now I want to go there. Good guess, Bob. Catch 631 also asked this question here. At this point in your credit card journey, is it a higher priority for you to get your long-term core wallet or the perfect right now wallet? Perfect right now, because I fear there. I hit a button and YouTube started playing. I think there is no such thing as a perfect long-term wallet because everything keeps changing. I mean, when I did the Path series, I talked about the benefit of transferring points from Citi over to I Prefer, and now that's going away. I talked about the benefit of using Wyndham for Vacasa, and now that's gone. So I can make the perfect wallet, but it's possible within a year or 2 or 3, it's toast. So I feel like I need to make the perfect right now wallet more than the perfect long-term wallet. I don't even know if there is a long-term perfect wallet. Now, there are long-term trends. Like so far, the Aeroplan trend has been working out nicely with Chase points. But who knows who knows how long that'll last. So just a few more questions and then we'll turn it off because that is the end of the community tab questions. Let's see. New Again says, I've firmly changed my mind. Citi is going back to the dumpster pile. CSR is the way. Amex Platinum is out. Interesting. And QC Man asks New Again, is that because of devaluation from Citi? And also says, I'm considering changing my mind and getting Marriott cards this year, waiting for Amex to drop the Biz cards. By drop, do you mean eliminate? Matt Clausen speculated that Marriott's going to pick either Chase or Amex and go with just one. QC Man says $37 for a moderately upscale meal. I'd kill for that in New York City. I usually try to shoot for around 20 to 25 per person, inclusive of tip and a soft drink here in the greater Des Moines area. Ian says, I used to go really out of my way to fly the most exotic airline products. Now I just want direct flights. Yep, I hear you there. Ziza says, sorry, Doug, for a second there, I thought I heard you say Three Cocks. You did. That's the name of the town, like Three Roosters. It's a town in Wales. Yuri says, I'm planning to transfer at least 500,000 thank you points to I Prefer. What do you have till the end of this month? Something like that, or maybe not even that long, maybe till the 16th. I looked at the I Prefer property that Ron Byrne recommended last week in Washington, Pennsylvania, which is right where I'm going to be traveling. And it's very nice. And the cents per point was even pretty good. I think it was up around like 2.8 on the city side of things. The problem is they don't have free parking. So first of all, I'd have to pay for parking. And secondly, it's like it's not in the town. It's out in the country. And it's really not exactly where I want to be. So remember that whole thing I said about prioritizing smoothness nowadays? I'm going to go with smoothness and just pick like a IHG Holiday Inn Express or something like that instead. Yuri has until the 19th of April to transfer those thank you points over to I Prefer. Knowing what I know of how you travel, Yuri, I fully support that decision. I think you're making a very good choice doing that. Just doesn't fit me. I don't travel enough. Don Kim says, I used a $100 hotel credit in New York on 1 iced coffee, 1 yogurt parfait, 1 fresh juice, and 2 bottles of water. Okay, so maybe I should stick with Wheeling, West Virginia, not so much New York City. Yuri stated, I prefer properties in CDMX, I'm not sure where that is, and Medellin, that's in Colombia, and they were both very good. That's what I've heard. All right, well, that's the end of it. Thank you to everyone who joined us. Last chance to drop a super chat or super sticker. I'll review who came by today and did so. Vincent Pascal got the ball rolling with a $1.99 super chat. John donated 1 Dugroz Reports membership. That's just as good as a $3 super chat. Bill Wright donated $2. Jason made a $1.49 super sticker and earned the bonus points. Ian dropped $1.99. Travel Fan dropped $2. And QC Man dropped a Reports membership, which is also just as good as a $3 super chat. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. CDMX is Ciudad, Mexico. QC Man says to Don Kim, that's why I shop at Costco. Haha, to avoid all these New York City prices. New again says, I agree, Doug. I can't do a long-term wallet, but long-term trends is real, like city being trash. There's definitely some truth there. All right. Thank you to everyone who joined in. Thank you to those watching after the fact. Remember, if you're watching this after a fact, list your favorite type of fruit in the description or the corresponding emoji. And if you just want to give a rationale, you can, or you can just say the fruit. Thank you for sticking with me to hear about things I changed my mind on. And as always, may your spending be frugal and may your points be plenteous. Same time, same place. See you next week.